Welcome to the world of science function. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The galactic skyline shimmered, vibrant with the hues of distant nebulas and the glimmering of countless stars. Amidst the void, a gargantuan vessel, the Aurora's Edge, drifted into the sector known as the Forbidden Expanse. This was not a place frequented by even the bravest of spacefarers. Tales of ancient, malevolent entities and mysterious disappearances surrounded this region, enough to deter all but the most foolhardy. Yet, the crew of the Aurora's Edge had a mission, one that led them directly into the heart of this cosmic enigma. Captain Marin Falk paced the bridge with measured steps, her boots clicking against the polished metal floor. She was a woman of unwavering resolve, known for her sharp intellect and uncanny ability to adapt to any situation. Her crew, a motley mix of scientists, engineers, and adventurers, had followed her through countless perils. Today, however, unease hung in the air like an oppressive fog. "Captain," came a voice from the console. It was Dr. Alara Voss, the ship's xenolinguist. Her face was pale, her fingers trembling as she gestured toward the main screen. "We've intercepted a signal. It's ancient. Precursor-level ancient." The bridge crew fell silent. Precursor artifacts were the stuff of legend, remnants of a civilization so advanced that their technology bordered on magic. To encounter anything related to them was both a scientist's dream and a spacefarer's nightmare. "Let's hear it," Marin ordered, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. A low, resonant hum filled the air, followed by an otherworldly sequence of tones. It was hauntingly beautiful, yet unsettling, like a melody that didn't belong in this reality. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "It's a distress call," Alara deciphered. "But it's layered. There's a message embedded within. It's asking for help, and warning us to stay away." "Stay away? From what?" asked Nico Terran, the ship's engineer, his voice tinged with skepticism. He was a burly man with a knack for fixing anything mechanical but a deep-seated wariness of the unknown. Alara hesitated. "Something called the Guardian." The room grew colder, as if the mention of the name had summoned an invisible chill. Marin's mind raced. The mission was clear: investigate the signal and recover any artifacts or data of value. But the implications of the name Guardian suggested they might be biting off more than they could chew. "We're here now," Marin said, breaking the silence. "Prepare the away team. If this is what I think it is, we're about to make history." The Aurora's Edge descended toward the planet from which the signal originated, a desolate world scarred by ancient battles. The surface was littered with the remnants of massive structures, their forms alien and imposing. The away team, comprising Marin, Alara, Nico, and a security officer named Riker, disembarked onto the barren terrain. The signal led them to a colossal temple-like structure, half buried in the sands of time. Its entrance was marked by intricate carvings that seemed to shift and shimmer when viewed from different angles. Alara's eyes lit up with a mix of fear and excitement. "These symbols, they're precursor script," she said, running her gloved fingers over the carvings. "They're warning signs. Something about a guardian, a protector left behind to defend something of great importance." "Defend it from what?" Riker asked, his hand resting on the plasma rifle slung across his shoulder. "Or who?" Marin added grimly. "Let's move. Stay close and alert." Inside, the air was heavy, charged with a palpable energy that set their nerves on edge. The walls were adorned with more carvings, depicting scenes of a grand civilization's rise and fall. At the center of it all was a figure, a towering, armored being with glowing eyes. "The Guardian. This place is a tomb," Nico muttered, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "Whatever happened here, it didn't end well." They pressed on, following the signal deeper into the temple. The corridors grew darker, the carvings more chaotic, as if the artists had been consumed by madness. The team's flashlights cut through the gloom, revealing glimpses of ancient machinery and long-dead remains. Then, they found it. A massive chamber, its ceiling stretching so high it vanished into darkness. At the center stood a towering figure encased in a crystalline structure. It was the Guardian, a being of immense size and power. Its body was a fusion of organic and mechanical elements, its face obscured by an imposing helmet. Even in stasis, it radiated an aura of dread and authority. "That's it," Alara whispered, her voice barely audible. "The source of the signal." As they approached, the ground beneath them trembled. The crystalline structure began to crack, emitting a blinding light. The team staggered back, shielding their eyes as the Guardian awoke. Its eyes blazed red, piercing through the haze of light. The being's movements were deliberate, almost mechanical, as it stepped free from its confinement. It surveyed the intruders with an intensity that made their blood run cold. "We mean no harm," Marin said, her voice firm despite the terror gripping her. "We're here to help." The Guardian tilted its head, as if considering her words. Then, it spoke, its voice a deep, resonant rumble that seemed to shake the very air. "You are not worthy," it declared. "Leave this place, or face annihilation." The team exchanged panicked glances. Riker raised his weapon, but Marin quickly gestured for him to lower it. "Wait," she said. "Let's not provoke it." Alara stepped forward, her hands trembling but her eyes filled with determination. "Please," she said. "We only want to understand. To learn. We're not your enemies." The Guardian's gaze shifted to her, its expression unreadable. It remained silent for a long moment, the tension in the room becoming almost unbearable. Finally, it spoke. "Prove your worth," it said. "Survive the trial." Before they could respond, the chamber began to transform. Walls shifted, the floor dropped away, and they found themselves in a labyrinth filled with traps and challenges. The Guardian's voice echoed around them. "Only those who are worthy shall pass." Marin clenched her fists, her mind racing. They had no choice but to face the trial. The stakes were clear: survive, or perish. And the only way out was through. "Stay together," she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We'll get through this. We have to." The team moved forward, their resolve tested with every step. The labyrinth was a gauntlet of physical and mental challenges, designed to push them to their limits. As they navigated the treacherous paths, the realization dawned on them: this wasn't just a test of survival. It was a test of character, of courage, and of unity. Unbeknownst to them, the Guardian watched their every move, its expression inscrutable. For all its menacing presence, there was something almost curious in its gaze. As if it, too, was searching for something. Something that only a human could provide. The labyrinth's walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, the alien carvings etched into them glowing faintly with an eerie, rhythmic light. Captain Marin Falk took a cautious step forward, her sharp eyes scanning the corridor ahead. The distant sound of grinding stone echoed ominously, a reminder of the ever-present danger. Behind her, the rest of the team followed closely, their expressions a mix of determination and barely concealed fear. There was no turning back now. "What do you think this trial is really about?" Nico Terran asked, his voice hushed. The engineer's hands gripped his toolkit tightly, as though it might provide some semblance of security. "It's not just about survival," Alara Voss replied, her gaze fixed on the glowing inscriptions. "The precursors weren't savages. This is a test, a puzzle. They're measuring something more than our ability to fight. Whatever it is, let's hope we figure it out before we're crushed, burned, or sliced to pieces," Riker muttered, his plasma rifle at the ready. The security officer's voice carried a sardonic edge, but his knuckles were white where they gripped the weapon. They rounded a corner and found themselves in a vast chamber. The floor was covered in shifting tiles, each adorned with a unique symbol. At the far end, a towering door loomed, its surface inscribed with more precursor script. Alara's eyes widened as she examined the markings. "It's a riddle," she said, her voice tinged with both excitement and trepidation. "The symbols, they correspond to the sequence of tones in the signal we intercepted. We need to step on the correct tiles to proceed." "And what happens if we step on the wrong one?" Nico asked warily. As if in response, a section of the floor near the edge of the room suddenly collapsed, revealing a pit filled with jagged spikes. The team stared in silence, the message clear. "No pressure," Riker muttered. Marin stepped forward, her expression resolute. "Elara, guide me. Nico, keep an eye on the tiles for any signs of instability. Riker, cover us." Elara nodded, her mind racing as she analyzed the symbols and cross-referenced them with her notes. The first tile, the one with the spiral pattern. "Step on that." Marin took a deep breath and placed her boot on the indicated tile. The ground beneath her remained solid, and she exhaled in relief. One by one, they navigated the treacherous path, Elara's guidance proving invaluable. But as they neared the final tile, the chamber began to tremble. "Hurry!" Nico shouted, his voice rising above the growing rumble. The tiles behind them were beginning to crumble, the path disappearing into the spike-filled abyss. With a final, desperate leap, the team reached the door. Marin pressed her hand against the inscriptions, and the massive barrier slid open with a deep, resonant groan. Beyond it lay another corridor, but this one was different. The air was cooler, the walls smoother, as though they had entered a more sacred space. "We're getting closer," Elara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can feel it." They pressed on, but the challenges only grew more daunting. The next room was filled with floating platforms, each shifting unpredictably in a vast chasm. Strange, glowing orbs darted through the air, emitting bursts of energy that crackled menacingly. "We need to get across," Marin said, scanning the room. "Nico, any ideas?" The engineer studied the platforms and orbs, his mind working rapidly. "The platforms have a pattern. If we time our movements right, we can make it. But those orbs, they're drawn to movement. We'll need to move fast and stay low." "Great," Riker said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Let's add dodging death lasers to our list of skills." Despite the tension, Marin managed a small smile. "Stay focused. We've made it this far. We're not stopping now." One by one, they navigated the floating platforms, their movements precise and calculated. The orbs reacted as predicted, firing bursts of energy that narrowly missed their targets. It was a harrowing ordeal, but their teamwork and determination saw them through. By the time they reached the other side, their breaths were ragged, their nerves frayed. "How much more of this can there be?" Nico asked, wiping sweat from his brow. "As much as it takes to prove ourselves," Marin replied. Her tone was steady, but the weight of the trial was beginning to show in her eyes. The final challenge of the section came in the form of a massive, intricately designed puzzle. The room was dominated by a colossal mechanism of gears, levers, and panels, all glowing faintly with precursor energy. At the center was a sphere, its surface swirling with light and shadow. "This is it," Elara said, awe evident in her voice. "The heart of the trial. If we solve this, we'll prove our worth." "And if we don't?" Riker asked, though the answer was clear. The team set to work, each member playing to their strengths. Elara deciphered the inscriptions and symbols, providing crucial insights into the puzzle's logic. Nico analyzed the mechanisms, using his engineering expertise to manipulate the gears and levers. Riker stood guard, ever vigilant for any signs of danger. Marin coordinated their efforts, her leadership keeping them focused and efficient. The mechanism resisted their efforts, its complexity pushing them to the brink. But piece by piece, they began to unravel its secrets. As the final lever was pulled, the sphere at the center began to glow brighter, its surface stabilizing into a harmonious pattern. The room filled with a resonant hum, and the walls seemed to shimmer with approval. "We did it," Elara said, a mix of relief and disbelief in her voice. Before they could celebrate, the floor beneath them began to rise, carrying them upward through a narrow shaft. The walls glowed with ancient symbols, their light growing ever brighter. The ascent was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking, the team bracing themselves for whatever awaited them at the top. When they emerged, they found themselves in a grand chamber, its ceiling adorned with a massive, glowing mural depicting the rise and fall of the precursor civilization. At the center of the room stood the Guardian, its imposing form bathed in an ethereal light. "You have proven your worth," the Guardian intoned, its voice reverberating through the chamber. "But the true test lies ahead." The team exchanged wary glances. They had survived the labyrinth, solved the puzzles, and faced countless dangers. But it seemed their journey was far from over. And as the Guardian's eyes blazed with renewed intensity, they couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge was only just beginning. The Guardian's eyes flared with an intensity that cast long shadows across the chamber, its voice reverberating like 1,000 echoes at once. "To move forward, you must face the Sentinel, a construct of my kind, designed to test not only your strength but your unity." Before the team could react, the floor beneath them shifted, the once grand chamber morphing into a coliseum-like arena. High walls surrounded them, and at the center, a hulking metallic figure began to rise from a hidden platform. The Sentinel stood over 10 feet tall, its sleek, obsidian-like surface pulsing with energy. Its arms were equipped with formidable weaponry, a massive energy cannon on one and a blade that hummed with deadly precision on the other. "I'm guessing diplomacy is off the table?" Riker quipped, raising his plasma rifle as the Sentinel's gaze locked onto them. "Stay together," Marin commanded, her voice cutting through the tension. "We need to figure out its weaknesses before it picks us off." The Sentinel moved with surprising speed for its size, lunging toward the group with a swing of its energy blade. The team scattered, narrowly avoiding the devastating attack. The ground where the blade struck sizzled and smoked, leaving a deep scar in the arena floor. Elara, crouched behind a fallen piece of rubble, scanned the Sentinel with her portable analyzer. "Its core is protected by an energy shield. We need to overload it before we can do any real damage." "Overload it how?" Nico shouted as he ducked behind another piece of cover, narrowly avoiding a blast from the Sentinel's cannon. "The symbols on its chest," Elara replied, her voice urgent. "They're linked to the energy conduits. If we can disrupt the sequence, it might lower the shield." "Got it," Marin said, her mind racing. "Nico, can you get close enough to interface with it?" "I can try," Nico said, already rummaging through his toolkit. "But someone's going to have to distract it." Riker grinned, his eyes alight with reckless determination. "I'll keep it busy. Just make it quick." As Riker fired a volley of plasma rounds at the Sentinel, drawing its attention, Marin and Elara worked together to create an opening for Nico. The Sentinel's movements were precise and relentless, its attacks forcing the team to stay on the move. Each missed strike felt like borrowed time, the air thick with the scent of scorched metal and ozone. Nico darted forward, his heart pounding as he reached the Sentinel's side. He activated his interface device, the small screen lighting up as it connected to the alien construct's systems. Symbols and patterns flashed across the display, their meaning obscure but urgent. "I'm in," Nico called out, his fingers flying across the device. "But this code, it's like nothing I've ever seen. I'll need a minute." "You don't have a minute," Riker shouted as the Sentinel turned its cannon on him. He dove behind cover, the blast reducing the stone to rubble. "Keep it distracted," Marin ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. She grabbed a discarded energy baton from the arena floor and charged at the Sentinel, striking its leg with all her strength. The blow didn't do much damage, but it caused the construct to pause, giving Nico precious seconds. "Got it!" Nico yelled triumphantly. The Sentinel's shield flickered and then dissipated, its core now exposed. But the victory was short-lived. The construct's movements grew more aggressive, as though it recognized the shift in the battle. "Aim for the core," Elara shouted, her own weapon trained on the glowing sphere in the Sentinel's chest. The team focused their fire, plasma rounds and energy bolts converging on the vulnerable core. The Sentinel staggered under the onslaught, its movements becoming erratic. But it wasn't done yet. With a deafening roar, it unleashed a shockwave that sent the team flying. Marin hit the ground hard, her vision swimming as she struggled to get back on her feet. The Sentinel loomed over her, its energy blade raised for a final strike. Time seemed to slow as she reached for her sidearm, knowing it wouldn't be enough. But before the blade could descend, Riker tackled the sentinel from the side, his plasma rifle firing point-blank into its core. The construct staggered, its movements faltering as sparks and smoke poured from its chest. "Now!" Riker shouted, his voice raw with effort. Elara fired the final shot, her precision impeccable. The plasma bolt struck the core dead center, and the sentinel froze. For a moment, the arena was silent, the team holding their breath. Then, with a blinding flash, the construct collapsed, its once imposing form reduced to inert metal. The team stood in stunned silence, their breaths ragged as they surveyed the aftermath. The Guardian's voice broke the quiet, its tone solemn yet approving. "You have demonstrated courage, ingenuity, and unity. The path is open to you." A section of the arena wall slid open, revealing a staircase that spiraled upward. The team exchanged weary but triumphant smiles. "One step closer," Marin said, her voice filled with determination. But as they ascended, the weight of their journey pressed heavily on their minds. The challenges they had faced were unlike anything they had ever encountered, and the stakes only seemed to grow higher. Whatever lay ahead, they knew it would demand everything they had and more. The spiral staircase seemed endless, each step echoing with the weight of the team's exhaustion and resolve. The air grew colder as they ascended, the walls around them pulsing faintly with an otherworldly glow. When they finally reached the top, they emerged into a chamber unlike anything they had seen before. The room was vast, its ceiling stretching high into darkness, with crystalline structures casting refracted light in every direction. At the center stood a pedestal, and upon it, a glowing orb pulsated with rhythmic energy. The Guardian's voice resonated again, but this time it seemed to come from everywhere at once. "This is the Nexus," the Guardian explained. "The heart of our civilization and the key to your journey. But to claim it, you must prove your understanding, not just of our technology, but of yourselves." The team exchanged wary glances. They had just faced down a seemingly invincible sentinel, and now another test awaited them. Marin stepped forward, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. "What do we need to do?" "The Nexus will show you," the Guardian replied cryptically. As Marin approached the pedestal, the glowing orb flared, and the room shifted. Each team member found themselves standing alone, surrounded by a swirling void. A voice, their own voice, but distorted, spoke to them, challenging their fears and insecurities. Marin was confronted by the weight of leadership. Visions of her past decisions, both the victories and the failures, played out before her. The voice questioned her ability to lead her team through the trials ahead. "You bear their lives on your shoulders. Can you carry that burden?" Elara found herself surrounded by a projection of her homeworld, its skies filled with stars she'd once studied with wonder. The voice taunted her curiosity, suggesting that her insatiable desire for knowledge might lead to her downfall. "Will you forsake caution in your pursuit of answers?" Riker's void was a battlefield, echoes of explosions and cries filling the air. He was forced to confront his impulsive nature, the voice questioning whether his bravery was recklessness in disguise. "Will your actions save your team, or doom them?" Nico's test was quieter but no less harrowing. He stood in a workshop filled with tools and gadgets, the voice reminding him of his self-doubt. Can you trust your skills when the stakes are highest? Each of them faced their deepest fears, their insecurities laid bare. But as the tests progressed, they began to draw strength from their bonds. Marin's resolve hardened as she remembered her team's unwavering trust in her. Elara's curiosity became a beacon, guiding her toward solutions rather than danger. Riker's courage transformed into a steady determination, and Nico's ingenuity shone as he pieced together a solution to his trial. One by one, they overcame their challenges, the void dissolving around them. They found themselves back in the chamber, the glowing orb now pulsing with a brighter, steadier light. The Guardian's voice returned, its tone filled with something that almost sounded like pride. "You have passed the final test. The Nexus recognizes your unity and your growth. You are ready." The orb began to rise from the pedestal, its light enveloping the team. In that moment, they felt a profound connection, not just to each other but to the knowledge and legacy of the Guardian civilization. Visions of the past, present, and possible futures flashed before their eyes, a torrent of information that was both overwhelming and enlightening. When the light faded, the orb floated gently into Marin's hands. It was warm to the touch, its energy humming softly. "What now?" she asked, her voice hushed with awe. "The Nexus is yours to wield," the Guardian replied. "With it, you hold the power to unite worlds or destroy them. The choice is yours." The weight of the responsibility settled over the team, but Marin's grip on the orb tightened with resolve. "We'll use it to bring hope," she said firmly. "To rebuild, to learn, and to connect." The Guardian's presence began to fade, its final words lingering in the air. "Then go forth, and may your choices shape a brighter future." As they descended the staircase, the chamber behind them sealing itself, the team felt a renewed sense of purpose. The trials they had faced had not only tested their strength but also forged an unbreakable bond between them. Outside, the alien landscape stretched before them, vast and filled with potential. The Nexus glowed faintly in Marin's hands, a reminder of their journey and the challenges still to come. But for the first time, they felt ready to face whatever awaited them. "One step closer," Riker said, echoing Marin's earlier words. He grinned, his usual bravado tempered by a newfound respect for their mission. Marin smiled, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Let's make it count." The team moved forward, their silhouettes framed by the setting sun. Together, they carried the weight of the Nexus and the hopes of countless worlds, ready to shape a future worth fighting for.